there needs to be rules and regulations for police departments in the use of undercover and unmarked. So when you use undercover and unmarked, at least like where I'm at, under no circumstances are you to try to jump out and enforce any laws in a unmarked vehicle or what we call an undercover vehicle, or as an undercover person, somebody that's not in uniform. The only time that it's justified is when it's imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death for somebody. So whether that's a civilian or a cop.
Gotcha.
Other than that, your job is to sit back, observe, report, and wait for the marked units to get in there, and then you can go out and help. So if you come in conjunction with the marked unit, that's one thing. But in instances like this, it would be satisfied right away because, one, a marshal's not going to come out alone and arrest you. So a little bit of common sense, if you can put that together really quickly. Now I've got the advantage. I'm a cop. I know this stuff. Not everybody knows this.
Yeah, and then two, there's that aspect of, because I agree with you technically, right?
Yeah.
But in the moment, especially when you're caught off guard,
it creates hesitation.
Yes.
And hesitation will get
It's kind of like, none of this makes sense, but I just want to run this through my mind, but you don't have that.
You don't have the time.
You don't have that. Right?
Yeah.
This episode of the Colion Noir podcast is brought to you by Vetter Holsters. Welcome to another episode of the Colion Noir podcast. Got me right here.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
I don't know. What's up with the glasses? Are we going for a whole? Are we going for the whole Iron Man look today?
So I actually hate wearing glasses.
Okay.
I hate it. So what happened is initially what I thought I talked about it for a split second in a video I did. I thought when I put in my contact that I scratched my eye because I developed like a bursted blood vessel. Okay. And so my eye was like bleeding essentially. Yeah. I thought it was from putting in the contact and maybe scratch. Because I'm kind of aggressive when I put my contacts in. Okay. I know it's dumb.
It's your eyes. I wouldn't be too aggressive.
I know it's dumb. Not like I'll come in, especially taking them out. I'm just ripping and going.
Yeah.
So I went to the optometrist and he was like, it's probably from working out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, bearing down.
Yeah. So I think what happened, and now when he says that, I because initially I kind of did the Googles, right? So I'm like, oh shit, do I have high blood pressure? Right? Because that's can kind of be a thing. So I checked my blood pressure. Blood pressure's great, and I'm like, all right. And so then I was like, let me just go to the doctor because I'm like, if I'm stuck in glasses, it's hard for me to film because I'm used to filming with shades on. Right. And I don't have shades that are prescription. Okay. So I was like, I wanted to see whether or not it was okay for me to wear contacts. I wanted him to see it, make sure everything's good because we were going to be filming here this week. Get there, he's like, I think it might be from something strenuous you were doing, like and working out. And recently, I did a workout with a trainer at the gym that I go to. Okay. And it was already tough. But it's kind of like one of those things where like you push yourself extra hard because you don't want to be no punk bitch
in front of your trainer. Yeah, yeah.
So I remember the next day like, holy shit, what did I do? Because like my whole body was just done, wrecked, completely wrecked. And I can think back squeezing out extra reps on sets where I'm like, I know I'm holding my breath and kind of not like breathing appropriately and stuff like that. So I think essentially what happened, that was a long way of saying I burst a blood vessel in my eye. And so it's healing now. Okay. It was a lot worse than where it is now. So I'm just wearing the glasses to give my eye a break because I usually wear contacts. Okay. And the contacts make my eyes kind of tired. All right. Yeah. So
I dig them. They suit you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A 30-minute explanation for just my eye got ruptured. I need to wear glasses for
what? I'm an explainer.
Yeah. The dude litigates. That's what he does. So
I've just embraced it at this point. I don't try to fight it. I just embrace it.
It's inherent in his mind. That's how it's how you think. I like it. It's like when I ask my wife a question, I get 40 minutes of end around of how we led up to the question I asked that never gets answered. So but you answered it. So I can't even notice anything.
No, because it happened. I noticed it. I think it was Friday. Okay. Yeah, I think it was Thursday or Friday. That's when I noticed it, and so I've been wearing glasses since then. I haven't worn glasses this long in probably a decade. Okay. Yeah, I don't like wearing glasses, and I'm black, so I have that thing with the bridge of the nose.
Peter, he's black.
I don't see color.
Shut the fuck up.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see color through the shine of the Vaseline on his arms.
It's baby oil.
Is it baby oil? Yeah.
Well, it was, but then it.
Actually, I use Kills.
We're loving it.
But yeah.
But good seeing you though, brother.
Absolutely.
Glad we got back together.
We were just talking about you having a cop hater on your podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, he's not a cop hater. He does have quite a few followers that are not fans of police. So I will say it's Long Island Audit. We had him on our show, Two Cops, One Donut. And the whole discussion was about police training, cops screwing up First Amendment rights. Lord knows we've seen cops screw up Second Amendment rights, and that's kind of your forte. So I wanted to have that discussion. I thought it was an interesting discussion just because of your law background, and talking about how cops either know the law and let their egos take over, or they're ignorant and they don't know it and they weren't properly trained, and so that's kind of the mix of what that discussion was last night, and it did really well. And so I thought, it's like maybe Colion's, people will appreciate that type of conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, I try. It's the one thing I will say is, like, I want to have people on who oppose my views. Mm-hmm. They don't want to come on. Yeah. They don't really want to come on. Yeah. And like, there was actually, I forgot her name, God bless her heart, because she has this podcast where she likes to have guests on that have competing ideas about a topic. Okay. And
pit them together.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just two-way stuff. It's all over.
Right.
And we've been trying to schedule a sit-down with someone who is more pro gun control for the longest. And every time she tries to get someone and she thinks she has someone, she follows it up a couple days later like, oh, never mind. I told them who you were, and then they backed out. Oh yeah, it's happened. I remember it happened with what's that one lady from I can't believe I forgot her name. All right, so I've got to give a quick shout out to Vetter Holsters. They're now sponsoring the podcast. I've been using their light tuck kydex inside the waistband holster, and what I really like is how adjustable it is. You can tweak the ride height and cant to get it exactly how you want. Plus, they've got holsters for over 450 gun models in 75 different colors, so you can pretty much find whatever you need. But here's the thing that really sets them apart: their customer service. I've heard so many stories about how they've gone above and beyond to make sure you're happy with your holster. And with a lifetime warranty and a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's clear they stand behind their products. If you're in the market for a great holster, check them out at betterholsters.com. I used to troll her all the time on Instagram. I mean, on Twitter, when it was Twitter.
It's very adult of you.
I know. But she trolls. I mean, she blocked me now, but she was like the head of Mom's Demand. What's her name?
What?
She was like the head of Mom's Demand Action, that gun control group. Oh. What is her name?
I do know who you're talking about.
I can't believe I forgot it. Like, she was like we low-key had a thing online.
If we only had somebody in the background that could look things up for us.
No? Like, what's her name?
Do you pay that guy that just sits there and watches us?
I am handling other stuff at the same time.
I hear a lot of excuses and very little results.
I can't believe I forgot her name. Shannon Watts. Shannon Watts, yeah. She, I remember this. I can't believe I forgot her name. I'm sorry. If you're watching this, I apologize. She reached out to me and she was like, hey, Shannon Watts wants to, I think I have Shannon Watts to come on and have a conversation. And she's just the mediator. She's going to serve as the mediator to have that conversation. And I was like, who? She was like, Shannon Watts. I was like, it'll never happen. She was like, no, she said she'd do it. Yeah. I was like,
does she know she's going against me?
Yeah. I was like, have you told her who she'd be speaking with or whatever? And she was like, not yet. I was like, get back to me in a couple days. Yeah. Sure enough, she was like, oh my gosh, you were right. She backed out.
Wow.
Yeah, so people on that side don't like having that conversation, largely because, and I know why, there's not much in the way of logic involved in the reasonings behind it. It's more emotional. Yeah. And so they're not really going to have a response. Yeah. And I'm not really I'm not the type of advocate that you can easily dismiss because I'm just saying it's my right and that's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then with that, usually you can rebut it with emotional appeal. Yep. But when it's logic, it's kind of hard to do that. Yeah. And so they don't necessarily want to.
Well, that was part of the crowd last night when we, because when we do these live streams, we have the chats, and that's kind of that's really where we try to bridge that gap with people is we will have them have the ability to partake in the conversation. You know, you listen to your podcast, you listen to like Rogan's podcast. One of the things that your audience really wants to do is they feel like they want to be a part of the conversation. Yeah. Well, I understand why we can't always do that, but in law enforcement, like what I'm doing, like my whole job's with the community. So if I'm not having the conversations with them, then what am I doing? Yeah. I'm just cop-splaining and talking at you.
But to piggyback off what I just said about no one wants to have that conversation, you're not exactly the norm, right? So, because you get what I'm saying? Like, there aren't a ton of officers who are willing to have that conversation with someone like that guy. Right?
Yes.
Or am I wrong?
You're 100% right.
Right.
And what was, but this is what developed in having that conversation with him, and his name's Sean Paul Reyes. That's his name. But
what's his background? I don't know him.
He didn't have a background other than, you know, in like 2021 or something like that. He decided he didn't like how he saw some of these First Amendment auditors going out there and just being like a-holes to cops, and he's like, you're just out there bullying and not proving a point. He's like, when he does it, and this is why we like his stuff so much, is when he goes out, he not only is calm, level-headed, he explains the law, he's right. He's been criminally charged 11 times. He's beat every single case. So you've got 4 years. Yeah, that's him right there. You got a guy that's got 4 years of doing this, or maybe 5, and he's got no criminal charges that have stuck. He's doing it right.
That's wild.
And because of what he's done, one of the things we learned as well is that he's been invited to police departments, legal departments for prosecutions and stuff to teach, to speak. So he's doing something right.
Yeah.
So I think it's our job as law enforcement that's not our enemy. That's somebody that's improving policing, whether you like the way he's doing it or not. And cops don't like being told they're wrong. And that's where we start getting into the ego side of things. And so one of the things, you've been to where I work in the academy that we have, you see how progressive our training is. One of the new things that we've developed is an ego course. So it's not just, hey, this is when your ego's taking over. It's, hey, here's the science behind it. When you're thinking logically and reasonably, you're thinking with your frontal lobe. So when you're thinking through the frontal lobe, you're literally thinking through the right part of your brain. But when you get emotional, it switches and it goes to another part of your brain. Now you're thinking with the wrong part of your brain. So we teach them that.
Did y'all develop this information from that Princeton study where they had the guards and the inmates?
Where they had one batch B guards and one and
they had to stop it after 3 days because shit went downhill
really
fast.
I think we actually refer to that. I think we do. I'd have to look at it again. Don't quote me on that. But I think you're right. I do know what study you're talking about.
Yeah, like it was brutal. Like they were literally abusing the fake prisoners. The fake guards were brutalizing the fake prisoners, and they're like, "All right, we got to stop this before somebody dies."
Yes.
And so I think it was what's it called, like the Princeton study or something like that. Can you look that up, Peter?
Peter, look it up.
But yeah, I think there's a balancing act that you have to engage in. I think when you're a police officer, and this guy's coming as somebody from third.
Which is what we need.
Perspective, right? Yeah,
I like that.
Because it's like you do have authority.
Yes.
Right? But that authority can technically be checked by somebody that doesn't have the same authority, which would be a civilian, right? Saying, my authority comes from the Constitution.
Right.
Right? The Stanford. I don't know why I said
one of Ivy Leagues.
Yeah, all the same.
They also filmed it, right? I think.
Did they?
I think there was a whole, like, they were documenting.
I know they kind of did a documentary. I don't know if they actually filmed like everything that happened exactly.
Yeah. They might not want to release the video footage on that.
Yeah. I've gone down this rabbit hole lately of like watching YouTube videos about the fucked up shit people did, like especially during I don't know what it was during World War II. Everybody was fucked up. Everybody was just doing fucked up shit. It was just, it goes crazy.
It goes into the culture of what life was like back then. It was socially acceptable. In a way.
Right. Because I mean, I watched a video. I forgot what it was. It was Unit 971 or something like that in Japan, where basically they were conducting like live experiments on people in order to develop chemical warfare. So like this was like
to see what worked and what
because this was like back when like when they did the Geneva Agreement, and so essentially Japan was like, we think chemical warfare is going to be the way things are going to go. So they decided to build a facility and basically test on all the like prisoners, political prisoners. Yeah, Unit 731. And it's crazy the stuff they were doing. I mean, they would infect them with like venereal diseases. I'm serious, the bubonic plague, all that shit, and then would put them on a table and then vivisect them or whatever it's called. And basically, just no, it's called it's a V word. It's like vivisectomy, and basically cut them open as they're alive. And no anesthesia, just so they can see the progression of that particular thing.
On their own people or on prisoners or something?
On prisoners, but I mean, it ran the gamut. You had Russians, you had Chinese, you had Koreans, it was crazy. I think even some Americans died. The crazy thing is, how many people was it? We're talking tens of thousands. No one survived. Not one person from the facility who went into the facility, not one of them survived. And the only reason we know what happened is because of the guards and the people who were in the facility.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and so and then here's what gets even more fucked up. The main guy, we gave him immunity, right? We gave him immunity, one, to testify and tell us what happened.
Yeah.
Complete immunity. To testify, tell us what happened. And this went on for 9 years. Testify, tell us what happened. And then America was like, well, what did you learn from the research? Right? So if you can give us the research information, the things that you learned, we'll give you complete immunity. They got the research information. Yeah, this guy here. I'm not even beginning to try. Shiro Ishii, however you pronounce it. I can't do it. Yeah. Oh, did I do it correctly, Peter?
I think you did.
You did all right.
He's your uncle, right?
It's a little bit more like, Shiro Ishii. You need a little bit more bass.
More guttural.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, you're good.
And we ended up not. So the information they provided from their research, because they burned a lot of it, because when they were caught, they just burned the whole facility down.
Really?
Along with all of their research, because inevitably what it did, it was supposed to be experimental, where they were trying to develop chemical warfare and then learn about these things. Like they would do crazy shit, like stack people up back to back, and then shoot a bullet to see how many people would penetrate.
Oh, Lord.
Or they would tie up like 5 people around a pole,
and
then just toss grenades at certain distances to see where the grenade would be lethal.
So ballistic testing.
On humans.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't like Hitler and Germans do stuff like that?
More or less, yeah, but this is less talked about.
I was going to say, we know Hitler was messed up.
Yeah, we know. Well, the funny thing is Hitler never killed anyone.
Like, personally never?
No, not that I know of. I remember asking, because I would watch these documentaries like, wait, did he ever engage in any of this stuff?
So he just cucked it. I don't. Yeah, what he did. He's sitting over there in the corner.
I'm not saying he never killed anyone. Like, he's not bad for not doing that. But I'm saying it's the irony behind it. It's really odd, because when you think about it,
that shows the control.
Yeah. And then I've gone down the dark hole with this. But here's the crazy thing: they get the research that this guy did have. It's completely useless. Completely useless. Everything that they learned, we had already knew.
Wasn't even scientific.
Yeah, it was nothing. So, but he already had immunity. He died at like 80. Rich.
Oh, geez.
But like, he was crazy. I'm like, oh, wow. I was like, that, yeah.
Okay.
And so he got away with basically cutting people up, just doing all these experiments on people, and basically.
So this is what you do in your off time. I thought you were out shooting guns and stuff.
I mean, it's. I mean, I have my fancy wireless Bluetooth in here.
Yeah.
Hearing protection. So
yeah.
I'm listening to podcasts and stuff while I'm shooting.
While you're shooting, range. Okay.
Yeah. That's a true story, by the way. I actually do that when I'm out shooting by myself, and sometimes I piss Peter off because I'm listening to music and he's trying to give me instructions on how to get the right angle and shit. And I'm like, huh?
Sometimes.
Yeah. And so I can hear him because I pass through hearing all those things, but that was a very impromptu ad for my wireless Bluetooth hearing protection.
Well, I did come here with a slight agenda. I got something that I wanted to get your perspective on because it's hitting the news a lot lately, like with the protests, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I was wondering, especially from a legal perspective, I'm not dealing with all these protests that are happening with federal agents and stuff like that out in California, but it makes me wonder, during a protest, if it's a peaceful protest, being armed, and it turns violent, what is the law? What's your opinion? How are you viewing that whole situation? Because I know I don't go anywhere where I'm not armed.
Yeah.
But what if I catch myself in there where I get trapped because it's happened?
Yeah.
So
I always talk about how dynamic self-defense is. Because it can flip at the drop of a dime, right? You could be the aggressor initially, but then the other person you were being an aggressor to could then become overly aggressive to the point where now you would be justified in using lethal force to stop them.
Right.
And I hate to give you the cop-out answer. It's really kind of a case-by-case basis. Right?
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like synonymous to like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, I don't know why they put
it
together there.
Like that. Yeah. That's like like one of the best cases to demonstrate that, because by and large he brought a firearm there for his defense. He was engaging in helping people medically and things like that too. And then some people would look at that and say, well, he's the aggressor because he brought a gun to a protest, what was supposed to be a peaceful protest. Right. And so then it became, but at what point, again, does it stop becoming a peaceful protest?
Yeah.
I say it stops becoming, the protest is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned, but it becomes an issue when you start threatening my safety. Right. And so I think but the weird thing about it is the other people on the other side seeing someone, because in their minds, they're peacefully protesting. And then to some degree, there may be people in that space who are. But they look at it as, hey, I'm peaceful protesting. I didn't bring a weapon. This guy brought a weapon.
Yeah.
Right? And then he visually represents the thing I'm protesting against. So that means he's a threat to me because I see a weapon.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it, especially people who don't necessarily believe in the Second Amendment like that, right? So, and like, why would you bring a weapon here? You don't need to have a weapon here. We need to attack him before he attacks us. So you see where it gets very convoluted in terms of understanding who is the aggressor.
Yeah.
But then you kind of that's where the kind of cold, calculated aspects of the law come in, because you have to look at it on paper. He had a right to do what he was doing. Was he doing anything that was aggressive? Was he endangering anyone other than just simply having a firearm is not going to cut it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he was doing it legally.
Yes.
But then the question then becomes, I can make it even more convoluted. What if he was carrying illegally? Does that still justify possibly attacking him? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So it really comes to like a case-by-case situation. So you can look at it and say, well, did you feel threatened? And well, yeah, why? Because he had a gun. But did he point the gun at you? No. Did he make threatening gestures at you? No. Did he say anything that he was going to do with the gun and thus made you feel? No. So simply seeing it. Yes. Well, that's not how the Constitution works. You know what I'm saying? So you can't use that to justify then you becoming the aggressor on them. And that's the thing about these protests, because it's that fluid.
Yeah. And then the aspect as a cop, watching a protest, like if you're on the front line, and that is one of my specialties. I've done mobile field force for years, worked the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention as an invited police agency to those, and I've done 3 or 4 of those now. So I've been right there, and it's gotten crazy. And you see people that carry, and what I've learned is the culture of policing is so different state to state. So if you come and do that in Texas, cops we're going to watch. Yeah. We're going to look and be like, all right, we're going to identify everybody we see that's armed, and we're going to say, hey, okay, there's a target to just pay attention to. But we're not going to mess with you. Yeah. What we're really looking for is the agitators and the ones that are being violent. So just because you're carrying doesn't mean anything. But I don't think that's the same out in California. No. Because you've seen people that simply being armed, the cops wrapped them up, checked them out, ID'd them, did all that stuff. Now, I don't think anything came of it, but that goes into citizens' rights.
Yeah. Well, you also remember California just got the ability really to carry. Californians, right? It wasn't really a thing a few years ago almost. Yeah. So the police force hasn't really caught up with the idea and the concept of civilians carrying firearms. Right. Right. And so you're definitely going to, and then what a wonderful way to test that out now, right? Yeah. Now you're dealing with potential protest riots and whatnot, and cops aren't used to seeing people who carry, and then now they see it and automatically assume, well, threat, because in their purview, everything else prior to that was anybody with a gun is a threat because they're not supposed to be having a gun out in the first place or carrying a gun in the first place. So is there no way that you could, but prior, was there no way prior that you could go through steps to be able to carry? It was exceedingly hard and difficult to do, right? And in some places in California, yes, because you had to get approval by the sheriff. Okay. Right? And so in LA County, hell no. It's not happening. You're not, no. Okay. Now, yes, because of the Bruin decision. But prior to that, no.
So then my question would be, if it's LA County, I'm trying to figure out what the legal justification would be if people can in fact carry. If there is some form or fashion that they have the ability to carry, what gives you the ability to stop, detain, and ID just simply for having a firearm? Because I can't assume that you're breaking the law.
Yeah, but you are breaking the law if you're not. Well, you're doing this based off of the idea that you have a right to carry.
Right. What's my RAS? What's my reasonable articulable suspicion?
That's. I mean, you could argue it's simply the presence of the firearm, right? Because
that in itself isn't illegal.
Not technically, right? Given you have, I guess the appropriate license and so forth and so on. And then I'm not really sure. I don't think there is open carry in California. So otherwise, it shouldn't really be seen. But let's just say shirt lifts up, you see a bulge, whatever the case may be, right? I think at that point, you could argue articulable suspicion that, you have somebody who's possibly breaking the law because they have a firearm and we don't know whether or not they are licensed to carry a gun.
Right. But that would be like me stopping you just to see if you have a license, period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So but again, I think that falls back on the whole idea and the notion of you may beat the case, but you're probably not going to beat the ride.
Right. And this is where I it's kind of counterculture to policing, and I'm trying to push back on the police side of things to get more constitutionally oriented. And I'm like, you have to be able to articulate the suspicion of a crime, or they're about to commit a crime. And if you're doing it just simply based because they have a firearm, I have a problem with that, especially in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And we see that. We saw that example of that Florida officer that asked to disarm. Now, granted, they followed the letter of the law by requesting and not, using authority to do so. But how many times have cops disarmed somebody telling them, no, we're going to disarm you, we're going to do this, and all that when it comes to your Second Amendment rights? So I like to push back and make cops think critically, like, really, what is your RAS? Yes, it's not normal for people to carry in California, but there's an avenue for legality.
Yeah.
So if that avenue exists,
that I think should eliminate simply the presence of a firearm on somebody's person serving as a pretext.
Yes.
I think that should be eliminated. Once there is an avenue by which to carry, I do think it should be eliminated.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's the conversations that we need to be having in the law enforcement realm is, what is my RAS? What am I doing? Am I using this as a pretext? I think that's wrong.
Yeah. I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Just because at the end of the day, because at that point it's kind of, because then it degrades and becomes the whole, I smelled weed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, did you?
Did you smell weed? How can I disprove that you smelled weed?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I will say, just to flip it a little bit on its head, I did a video recently about a story about a self-defense shooting where the guy, he owned a liquor store with his wife.
Okay.
And he went out to throw the trash away. I think it's happened in Houston. As he's throwing out the trash, walking back, guy pulls up in a car, hops out with a gun, light, vest, and it says Marshals across his chest.
Okay.
And he basically says, "You're under arrest," so to speak. And he's like, "What? I didn't do anything. What? Well, like, what the hell's going on?" He wasn't a marshal. He was faking it.
Okay.
Right? He was trying to rob him.
Oh.
And so he had him get down on the ground, put him on the ground, and then basically he told him, he's like, I'm not really marshal. I'm here to rob you. Like, right. And then his wife comes out of the door like a bulldog with her gun, starts shooting at the guy.
Yeah.
And then the guy takes off, and then finally the guy's able to get up, pull his gun, and start shooting at him too. And I talked about in the video, I'm like, man, that's kind of one of my unspoken fears, is being in a situation where someone is impersonating an officer to some degree, whether it be a marshal, regular cop, whatever the case.
Oh, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna like this. Okay.
And then like I always say, my only advantage as a concealed carrier is the element of surprise.
Yes.
If somebody has the means by which to put me on my heels a little bit, because I'm not really sure if I'm dealing with an actual cop or a fake one, I lose that element of surprise, because now they can close that distance, they can get the drop on me, so forth and so on. And I don't know if I have an answer as to how to deal with that. Don't play it completely. Oh yeah, if this is my video, play it. And largely just because there's certain elements of violence you can't show on YouTube.
Okay, so yeah, it does.
Look at that sexy guy.
Look at them glasses.
Let's see. Yeah, skip a little bit more. You'll see the whole. There, skip back a little bit.
He was sitting on a G-Wagon.
Yeah,
that's what he was waiting for.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a thing in Houston too.
Yeah.
And so he gets in the car. I can tell his ego was bruised.
Oh, I did see.
see that. Yeah.
I did see because he gets up and he
starts shooting.
Yeah, he starts shooting back. Yeah, because it was gangster that the wife came out had her man's back like that. That's a ride or die.
She didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
Yep. I said in the video, I was like, "You don't have one like this, let her go."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, she was ride or die for sure.
But I'm like, damn. I'm like even here, like being in my house, right? If people do impersonate showing up at your house.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the night, and it's like I hear boom, 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 police. Mm-hmm. My first instinct at that point, I hear police. My first instinct is I'm probably not going to answer that door armed.
Right.
Right? Because I normally do.
Yeah.
But I'm not in that instance if it's the police.
Because you're smart.
Yeah.
I take the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if it isn't the police? Yeah. So now I've lost the one advantage I had of criminals showing up to my house, getting me to open my door. And and I said in the video, there's not really much in the way of indicators that you can't just buy on Amazon and throw on.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then not only that, cops who do engage in undercover, who are they're just dressed a little more casually, right? I don't think marshals have a uniform. Do they?
Yeah, they do.
They do?
Yeah,
Okay.
They still have a uniform.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like take New York for instance. I don't know if there's much big an issue in New York because the carrying population there is so much smaller, but nonetheless, it still could. They have a ton of undercover cops in New York City.
Yeah.
Who dress plainclothes.
Yeah.
Right.
They
But
have a
still
color
could
of the
arrest
day
your ass.
and-
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. So it's like I don't know what the answer is in terms of how do you want to anticipate something like that, prevent something like that, so forth and so on. I don't know if there's an answer.
I think the solution, and I think the right solution is one, there needs to be rules and regulations for police departments in the use of undercover and unmarked. Mm-hmm. So when you use undercover and unmarked, at least like where I'm at, under no circumstances are you to try to jump out and enforce any laws in a unmarked vehicle or what we call an undercover vehicle, or as an undercover person, somebody that's not in uniform. The only time that it's justified is when it's imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death for somebody. So whether that's a civilian or a cop.
Gotcha.
Other than that, your job is to sit back, observe, report, and wait for the marked units to get in there, and then you can go out and help. So if you come in conjunction with the marked unit, that's one thing. But in instances like this, it would be satisfied right away because, one, a marshal's not going to come out alone and arrest you. So a little bit of common sense, if you can put that together really quickly. Now I've got the advantage. I'm a cop. I know this stuff. Not everybody knows this.
Yeah, and then two, there's that aspect of, because I agree with you technically, right?
Yeah.
But in the moment, especially when you're caught off guard,
it creates hesitation.
Yes.
And hesitation will get
It's kind of like, none of this makes sense, but I just want to run this through my mind, but you don't have that.
You don't have the time.
You don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying in that regard. I just know for me, even me, in that situation, I would have been thrown aback. He would have got me to the ground. I'll admit that because I'm like, wait, what? Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then from there, I even talk about the idea of where you carry, right?
Yes.
Because if he was carrying at 3 o'clock, I guarantee that guy would have taken his gun.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, but he didn't know he had it because he was carrying appendix.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, but then again, there are some situations where carrying at 3 o'clock is probably better.
Yeah.
So there's no.
Because you got the ability to turn,
Exactly.
angle yourself so they got a blind spot. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like appendix.
I do too.
And then I like my little crossbody, bag. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been
Your little man bag?
Yeah, my man purse. Shout out to 945 Industries. Yeah, I love that thing, man. But and it's unsuspecting. You see a guy wearing a freaking Hawaiian shirt style and
with a gun on it.
Yeah, they do have guns on. You gotta look close though. It's my retro rifle, man. I love it. But yeah, it's 4th of July is coming up, so I had to get a freedom shirt.
Hey, I love it.
Yeah.
But you're all right. I like appendix.
Yes.
I like appendix for the speed, the control, and awareness. Like it's faster for me to get to it. I can control it better, and I always know what's going on with my gun.
Yes, and it's just that natural, that line.
Yeah,
it's the only way. It's not.
It's not.
It's just linear.
I carried it at 3 o'clock for the longest time.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, because and even still to this day, a little bit, I still question myself. Like I have a gun pointing at
my wiener.
My wiener.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the same way.
And I can't justify it. Like I've seen comments where people are like, why would you ever do that?
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer other than what I just said. Speed, control, and awareness, right? But they're like, but you also have a femoral artery there in that area. And I'm like, they got me. I don't, but I'm so used to it now that I just, I just do it. And then you can have the conversation and discussion about whether or not certain guns may go off or not go off on their own, so forth and so on. Right. Yeah. And then it makes you go,
does it rhyme with TIG? Is that what you're talking about? I'm just curious. I didn't say it.
Hey,
I'm just telling you the rumors I've heard.
I've heard it all from every side. I'm at a point now where I don't even know. I mean, he can go so many directions. I'm like, now I don't exactly carry that particular model of gun. I never have.
Yeah.
I probably won't.
I do in the military. I don't have a choice though.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, you get issued. That's what you have to carry. Yeah.
Which is funny because I do have a SIG in my rotation though that I carry, which is the P365. Okay. Which I'm perfectly confident in that. But yeah, by and large, I'm
all Glocks. All Glocks. The only gun that I do want that's outside of that realm is the Staccato.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Gotcha.
That's it because I've shot it and it's like it's a cheat gun.
I always said it's a cheat gun. I think honestly any 2011 is a cheat gun.
Yeah.
I think if you give me a 2011 and say you give me something that's in the Glock space, I'm going to shoot the 2011 better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But there's a mentality in the space that says that it's just all about practice. Yes, I know. Yes, you can get good with any platform if you practice. However, if you don't practice and you give someone a Staccato or a 2011 of sort, and then you give them a Glock, they're going to shoot the 2011 better.
Yes.
I don't care what anyone says. They're going to shoot it better.
The Glock, I like to do like a jiu-jitsu reference because to me, the Glock's a purple belt.
Okay.
It knows its stuff, just doesn't have that same clean ability that a black belt has. So you get your black belt, that's your Staccato. Yeah. Like it can be slow, it can be fast. Whatever a black belt wants to do, they're going to do it. A legit one. Yeah. And the Staccato is a legit black belt. So it just runs that smooth. And it's not that Glock doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah. No, it's, my thing with Glocks, the Glocks that I like, one, I don't have a need to carry them. Or two, they're too big to carry for me, for the role I want them to be in, right?
Gotcha.
In terms of shootability. And so, like, for instance, my favorite Glock is a 19X. And then there's the Glock 30.
Yeah.
I only usually carry the Glock 30. I don't carry it. I bring the Glock 30 with me when I go to places like California where they have a magazine capacity limitation.
Oh, is that what makes the 30 different?
Because it's 10 rounds. And it's a little bit bigger than a Glock 26.
Okay.
So if I'm going to be relegated to 10 rounds, give me the biggest bullet I can get.
Okay.
Versus, 10 rounds. I'll take 10 rounds of 45 over 10 rounds of 9. But I'll take 15 rounds of 9 over 10 rounds of 45. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can shoot the 30 to the same degree. Maybe a little bit better with the 26, but it's such a good shooting gun that I don't feel I have to deal. Like I wouldn't do that I wouldn't carry a 10-round 1911 over a Glock 26, if that makes sense. So, for instance, and because for me, the 1911 doesn't handle the recoil of the 45 as well as the Glock 30 does.
Okay.
And the Glock 30 handles that recoil so much better to me that I feel comfortable carrying that over the Glock 26 or something else that's in the striker fired lane that has 10 rounds, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you red dot and everything now?
Just about.
Okay.
Just about. My P365, not so much. Like in the smallest configuration, but that's because I don't like the micro red dots, like that shield platform.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. It's just
hard to acquire.
It's just because I'm hunting.
Yeah.
And I know there's techniques and all that stuff like that, but it's just so small. It just doesn't really give me the comfort I want. So I rather just stick with what I know, tried and true, with the iron sights on that.
Okay.
And with the gun being that small, it's kind of like I'm just not nothing wrong inherently with those red dots, other than I just don't like the footprint size of those red dots. Okay. None of them. I don't care what brand it is. I'm not a biggest fan.
Okay.
But so when I go that small, it's usually I'm running irons. Okay. But anything bigger than that, I'm running red dot.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I haven't had a chance to use the smaller ones yet, so I was just curious if you're.
Yeah, some people love them.
Yeah,
I'm
gonna be as bold to say that, other than into that gun, the size and the capacity of that, it's got a purpose. It's quick and close.
Yes.
So
it's
negligible to
kind
have
of,
or not.
Truth be told, it's kind of dumb for me not to have a red dot on the size guns. And the reason why is because those guns, they sit low enough typically that I can co-witness.
Okay.
So whether I use a red dot or not, I get to, like, if I'm going to take a shot at a further distance, I'm going to want a red dot, regardless of how big or small the red dot is. I prefer a red dot. So if I find myself in a situation where I have enough time and I can take a shot justified at a certain distance, that's outside my typical self-defense combat type situation, I'm going to want a red dot on it. And then even if I decide not to use that red dot, I can just pass through with the irons through the dot.
Yeah.
Right. And ironically enough, to make sure you get a good read on your red dot, most of the time they tell you to just shoot as, like, draw and search for your irons, and the red dot will land. So you're still looking for your irons anyway, in a sense.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
we've been, they're mandatory now at my department. So we've been issuing them, and just seeing the average scores go from, and I'm making these numbers up because I don't know them, but I do know that it went from, let's say, a 95 to 99.600, like right there.
I again, cheat code.
Yeah.
Right? You take a 2011, then you throw a red dot on there.
Yeah.
Call it it's a cheat code. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to do a video on that. Can you write that down, Peter? I'm going to do 2011 with a red dot is a cheat code.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. Now, you can start wading into the weeds of, reliability versus the reliability of that versus a Glock, so forth and so on, the complexities, stuff like that. But if we're talking purely from a shooting standpoint and having the confidence to know that you're going to be better and more accurate, I'm going to have to go with the 2011 red dot all day long.
Yeah.
Like,
no
for
questions
sure. Asked. Yeah.
Now, you've shot several of the Staccatos, all the different sizes they've got now. I've only shot the P.
Okay.
The big dog. Have you noticed any, like, if I shoot their smallest model versus that larger platform, is there a noticeable difference, or are they all shooting? They are.
Okay. The interesting thing about that is it runs the gamut. So for me, the one I shoot the best is the XC, which is the largest footprint. Okay. Right. With the integral comp. Right. So any 2011. So I'm at the point now where I just cluster them all.
Okay.
Really, honestly, because where they start distinguishing themselves are like small things like aesthetics, ergonomics, say small things, and are like some of the most important aspects. Trigger pull, things like that. Yeah. But with the Staccato, so the XC is the one I shoot the best, right? If you're telling me you need to put on a phenomenal display of shooting prowess, pick a gun. It's going to be somewhere along that XC. It's like I have a Nighthawk too, that kind of same size footprint and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that, like, I'm going to pick $7,000. That.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's nuts. I love that gun.
Yeah.
And then you go down to, let's say, their smallest, which is the CS. I shoot that gun incredibly well. Like, I'll run drills shooting the XC and the CS, and I can't really honestly tell that much of a difference in terms of hitability.
Okay.
So in field, yes, the XC recoils less. In terms of what I'm hitting, so when I do my drills, I do I call them my what's it called? My conditioning drills, tactical conditioning drills, right? So basically, I'll set the timer, hit on still, get hit on still, sprint 70, 80 yards. Get a hit, sprint back, get a hit. Sometimes I'll stagger it, so forth and so on. I've noticed I can do and hit with the same effectiveness, whether I'm using the CS or the XC.
Okay.
Now, the C, which not a lot of people know about because it's an older model, that's my least favorite Staccato.
Okay.
And basically, it's kind of like the same size. Think about it, it's the same size it's basically a Glock 19 of the Staccato world, right? For whatever reason, that's my least favorite. Still would choose it over a 19 in terms of shooting, but It really just depends on your hand mechanics, like which gun fits your hand better.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They all shoot well. Some have, noticeably more recoil than others just because size, weight, all that crap. Yeah. But it really comes down to basically the mechanics of your hand. Which gun fits? The CS really fits well, and the little small one fits really well in my hand. So there's the XC. The C, not so much. Even though it's bigger than the CS still feels better. And so that's kind of, and I like guns that track fast. So the slide on the CS I either want the extremes. I either want a small gun with a small slide that tracks really fast, or I want a really big gun with a big slide.
Yeah,
that's typically kind of where I am.
When I shot the P, that's a big slide, and it's like Cadillacs. It's real smooth. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to call it.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I land in that realm. If you make me choose, I'm always going to go the biggest, because again, I get the benefit of the weight, less recoil, shoots flatter, and I could say the what's the word I'm looking for? Sight radius, right? But that's really only important when you start talking about iron sights.
Right.
And that's where it becomes like, okay, then you want a longer slide so you can have a longer eye radius. But by and large, with the red dot, it's infinite at that point. It doesn't matter. You can put it on a micro gun.
Have you taken the time to go through a red dot course yet?
I have. I've taken an informal one at SIG.
Okay.
And this was kind of like at the beginning of like the whole red dot thing. Before people really, because I was against it.
Yes.
And so we weren't
even... Wait. You were against red dots?
On the handguns, yeah.
What?
Because I was so used to shooting irons. If you really think about it, it's really stupid, because I was perfectly fine with it on a rifle, but on my handgun, for some reason, there was a difference.
Yeah.
There's no...
It's surprising that it took so long for that to even... It seems like they would have been at the same time.
You would think. Yeah. Well, also you got to understand, when I got into guns, the red dots were really primarily on rifles. They weren't really on handguns.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until like further down the line that we started getting them on handguns. But yet, you're right. You would think, well, I would be like, finally.
Yeah.
Right? No, I was like, ew.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it too, there is a bit of a difference though. Because with a rifle, you have 4 points of contact. You have your shoulder, you have this hand, and then your cheek, right? So you can maintain the consistency of where that red dot lands.
Yes.
Right? Whereas with a handgun, you only have 2 points of contact. So I think the reason why I hated it was because I couldn't pick up the dot.
Yeah, it takes time and practice. And that's why that's why I was getting into the course side of it. That course that I want to put you through with the guys that created it. They have developed such a method that in 2 days of getting that thing, you turn into this monster of a shooter. I mean, it is just, and what I love about it, and I'm not sure what the course was that you went through, but
it was impromptu, so it wasn't an official course.
Okay,
it was, they had an instructor there, and I was at SIG to do something else, and we were at their facility, and I pointed out, I think it was actually Peter who ratted me out, that I didn't really like red dots on guns.
Okay. And
SIG was already embracing. It's weird, because it was kind of like the equivalent of like all these car manufacturers embracing electric.
Yeah.
We're trying to get ahead of the curve. SIG was kind of already doing that with the red dots. And so they were like, well, we got a guy who teaches the course.
Yeah.
We can run you through a little impromptu course and see what he'll get you to like red dots on the guns. Okay. And so that's what happened.
All right. Well, in this course, what I love about it is they give you a shattered, turned off red dot on a gun to shoot once you've gone through all of the instruction. And you learn that you can still shoot and use your red dot even though it's not functioning and it's broken. And once you learn that, then the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my God, like this is actually, if you just remember that all that glass is doing.
A 10 MOA.
Yes. Because that was one of our concerns as law enforcement is, what about, we're in Texas, getting in and out of an air-conditioned vehicle, fogging over, can't see the red dot. Like, what do we do? Like, that's a thing. And
that's crazy. People don't think about that. Right?
Yeah. So these are concerns that we had, like, holding up to on-duty performance, because I can't have that thing moving around. And that's another thing. So, we obviously put it through the ringer for about 2 years. We had the beta program. I don't know what else to call it. And we got them approved and got them going. And those guys that I was telling you about that want to put you through that course, man, it is going to, I know you probably really good with it now, but it's going to give you a new way of thinking.
I'm good enough. I wouldn't say I'm really good with it.
I've seen you shoot.
Yeah, but it's still at distance. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it lends itself to my style of shooting at distance.
Yes.
In closer distances, I'm still not as confident as I think I should be.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I'm good enough. Like I'm good enough to be dangerous, but not. I wouldn't say like I'm really good.
Yeah. And they took a guy like me that I was an average shooter. I wouldn't say that I was out there, just owning it and beating all my peers. I was usually shooting like anywhere from a 93 to a 96 on a really good day. Maybe I got a 98, but never 100.
Yeah.
And when I got through the red dot course, the thing they told me, they were like, you're going to get worse before you get better. Stick with the process.
Gotcha.
Stick with the process. So I'm like, all right. And I'm a 2-eye shooter. I have always been that way because that's how I learned. And so I picked up to the red dot a little bit quicker, but I did dip significantly that first day and a half. It was like the last half of the second day, the last day, and all of a sudden just things started clicking, and I'm like bang, 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 and they're like, all right, now shoot and move, shoot, go run over there, shoot that, and I'm like bang, 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 bang. I'm like, oh my god, I'm John Wick, I'm going off. Like I never experienced that feeling, and
you gonna get your people?
It ain't my people. That's FD, baby. It's funny. You can start to tell the difference in the sirens. I was like, that's FD. The little whiny siren that they got. But man, I feel bad. You see that whole situation over in Idaho?
Yeah, I just started getting into it a little bit.
Oh man,
I haven't really deep sea dived into it, but yeah.
So that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was like a 20-year-old who. Yeah.
But setting them up, ambushing and all that stuff, and it goes to show just how much media and people speculate. There was multiple shooters, it was Aryans, it was this, it was that.
Some guy who had military training who was like,
I'm like, anybody can get a rifle, and the way these things are built these days, it's unless you're trying to shoot at the president, the accuracy is. It's
pretty much, especially if you ambush them.
Yes,
if you ambush them, it's pretty much.
Yeah, and so seeing that, I think several firefighters, down.
I think 2 of them died.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah, that shit's nuts.
But that goes to show, like, going into prep and knowing what you're getting into and how to take command of a scene like that, because fire was involved.
Yeah,
not just firefighters, but actual fire.
Yeah.
I don't play with fire.
I don't either.
Yeah, if FD's like, I wouldn't go in there. Like,
I'm like, cool.
I'm going in.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool story, bro.
I'll sit back here and secure the scene.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell me what you need me to do. So, but
no, man. Once again, like always, you're always welcome on the show.
I know, bro. I love it. Every time we always have good conversations and stuff. And
yes, sir.
Still waiting to get you in my studio.
Yeah, I know.
If you stop being so busy,
I know it's nuts. Yeah, but no, I do. I need to jump in there.
It's more for Peter. I just want him to see.
Yeah, I see you guys have a bromance going on.
See a cute studio. He calls me all the time. It was like 11 at night. He's like, "What you thinking about?" I'm like, "That's weird."
You said you weren't going to say anything.
I said I
think of things like when I'm like walking or something, and I'm like, okay, if they're trying to jack my car, and I just pull it and I start shooting, am I going to get in trouble? So I'll like message like, hey, so hypothetical. I'm just having these thoughts, and then throughout the day, I mean, I'm sure everybody, especially when you start first carrying, you're like, what can or can't I do?
Yeah.
What, you know what I mean?
If they don't have a gun, you might be fucked on the spot, but later on you'll probably beat it.
Yeah.
But if you're,
or if I get in front of the vehicle, they're trying to take me out with my vehicle, then it might. Like,
well, vehicles, that'll be considered a weapon.
I know. That's what I'm like.
Yeah. So real quick, did I tell you what I got going on? What I did? I took the podcast idea, and I feel like it's kind of limited in what we can do.
Yeah.
As far as the mission that we're trying to do, bridging the gap with the community and stuff. We created a network. So we went from 2 Cops, 1 Donut. Now we have DTV. DTV is the donut. So we just play on words. But one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to get guys, legal experts like you. We're trying to get community leaders. We're trying to get reformed felons or, officers, cops, all that stuff. And I don't want to be the face of all this stuff. I want other people to have their own shows. So we're taking the best of the best out there, and we're trying to give them a platform and help guide them through learning how to do all this stuff because you know the process.
Gotcha.
So if you got the ideas, I know, and he's actually going to be a part of that. So, but yeah, that's what we're trying to do now. And so anytime we get stuff up and going, especially if we need a legal expert,
okay,
we might shoot you out there and just have you chat on guns or whatever.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely.
Yeah, dude, it's fun stuff.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Love it.
Appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir. Always.
Yes, sir.